hell was that?
Among the worst films of the year.
Worse, it reeks of intellectualized noirishness.
It stinks. It stinks.
The line between a good bad movie and a bad good movie is a strange and mostly unknowable uncanny valley of unexpected surprises and big budget failures. Case in point, what the hell is Mortal Engines? Produced by Peter Jackson and based on the young adult novels of Philip Reeve, Mortal Engines was a post-apocalyptic urban fantasy that bombed at the box office in late 2018, about a plucky young girl and an undeservedly unkillable bookish chappy chap, who is the cause of easily half of the conflict in the story, but we're supposed to like him for some reason. Desperately trying to survive in a world broken by global post-nuclear war, living in, with, and sometimes escaping from enormous mobile urbanscapes called traction cities, which are all the famous bits of actual real-world towns and capitals, all Lego Master Builder together atop giant tank treads that hunt and devour each other in an unsustainable contest for survival, cheekily called municipal Darwinism, in the most on-the-nose metaphor for British colonialism since... Well, actually, I can't think of anything this brutally unsubtle, since it's literally an armored city of London destroying and eating foreign lands and people, with their eyes greedily set on gorging themselves on untouched Asia, here calling itself the Anti-Tractionist League, because they believe this crazy idea that cities should remain in one place and not literally eat each other for resources. And yet, this incredibly ridiculous film that includes a neutral balloon city in the sky, a seemingly impenetrable wall between east and west, Zeppelin interceptors, a near unkillable zombie Terminator dad, and a goddamned goober, kept my attention hostage from beginning to near end, because it kept its promise to one single, simple principle. Commit to crazy. The first 5 minutes of this film consist of the entire film's creative thesis, which is to hide or subdue nothing from its source material. You immediately are thrown into a tense hunt from the perspective of the prey, a German amalgam town sitting on a plain. As the predator London appears on the horizon, bearing down quickly on them, city districts detach from each other and race off on treads and enormous wheels in ridiculous configurations of classic German architecture and grimy industrial factories, breaking off from the group like antelope scattering from a lion. We get our first look at London, which is possibly the most British compilation of British things to ever British before, with the London skyline cut, bent, and twisted to create a body for St. Paul's Cathedral, Big Ben, Parliament, a palace or two, Trafalgar Square, Hyde Park, and a turtle-shell back of high streets and the East End to ride atop. Access via an elevator made of the London Eye, flanked by giant chrome lions, which all rumble on British-created tank treads with a massive maw emblazoned with the Union Jack. This monstrosity then devours the smaller prey city, with the German locals being absorbed into the British population. And that is something that I, personally speaking, have never seen before. Yes, the plot is a thin gruel, and the characters are all shallow stock, and the performances range from pantomime matinee to phoned in. But the visuals are a full 4-course meal of rich desserts, in a living world where motivations, while cartoonish, at least make sense. The plot, for instance, is well aware that the setup, these traction cities, are ridiculous and unsustainable, an over-engineered half-assed answer to a real problem regarding resource management and security after the end of geopolitics as we know it. The entire premise of the Anti-Traction League is, hey, that's a really stupid idea. Which is probably why they win in the end, because they're not dumb. I mean, honestly, who starts a land war in Asia? I think a lot of the reasons why this particular B-movie, young, adult, vaguely revolutionary plot works is because it steals from the best in terms of grand, cheesy, allegorical sci-fi. This is the greatest episode of Doctor Who that just happens to not include the Doctor ever produced. And I spent a good part of the film keeping an eye out for cameos, in case Peter Jackson snuck Sylvester McCoy in there somewhere for a joke. The only time the movie does trip and stumble is at the finishing line, when it forgoes the much-anticipated earth-shattering kaboom that would see this London sandwich explode and raining bits of Britannia across the battleground that every element of the story was leading you to expect, and apparently happened in the book. Replaced instead with erectile dysfunction and all the excitement of a car stalling. So meh is the ending, so suddenly meh. I can't even remember how the main villain dies. I watched the film twice just 3 days ago, and I can't picture or recall a single detail of his last moments. Mortal Engines is a bad movie, but it is a good bad movie, and it really does deserve to be seen, if at least just to be believed.
Sherman, I just realized you insulted me. Now you will die.
Hey, Nutneck, your shoe's untied.
From here they appear to be tied, but I will go in for a closer look.
Taxi! To the airport!
On closer inspection, these are loafers.